name is Brian Salazar. I'm a licensed acupuncturist in the state of New York, excuse me, and I'm an acupuncture physician here in the state of Florida. I have two practices in New York, one in the Bronx and another one in Manhattan. Having just recently moved from there to the sunny state of Florida, I am now in the process of opening up a couple practices down here, hopefully by the end of this year. I graduated from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine in 2011, which is in New York, and I graduated from Acupuncture and Massage College with an Oriental Medicine doctorate in 2019.
So how long have you been practicing for?
I've been practicing since 2011.
What were you feeling most frustrated with back then, before the mentorship?
Well, before the mentorship, I was just getting started with building up my practice in the Bronx as well as the one in Manhattan. My goals at that time were to basically increase volume, increase retention, and things that we're dealing with was just basically trying to educate the community about acupuncture, massage therapy, and trying to build up the practice so that it could be a self-sustaining entity without me having to see 30, 40 patients a week. The goal was for me at that time to build it up so that my acupuncturist and massage therapist could see as many patients and clients as they could, so that I could essentially filter myself out of the scene and move down here.
Yes, because at the time you were primarily the main one seeing most of the patients, right?
Correct, yes.
What do you feel like was most frustrating back then when it was more of just you?
The most frustrating thing was the inability to duplicate or to replicate myself or the services that I provided, to be able to find team members that can essentially see my vision and see the treatment plans from start to finish and help me grow the practice.
I'm curious if you happen to remember how you ended up getting connected and deciding to work with us.
That's a good question. I don't remember how we got connected, but probably through Facebook. I wouldn't be surprised if it was through Facebook. And I developed an interest in it from the very beginning, which is what prompted me to go to the program that you have in Arizona, at the live event. After that, then I joined the mentorship.
What's changed for you? Tell us about what's opened up for you.
A lot of things have opened up since that mentorship and since that live event. I would say that the level of confidence has definitely grown to the point that I could easily state what my services are and what they're worth without any difficulty. The ability to educate and communicate through the different venues that you taught us about the ways of communicating through the elevator speech or through the short discussions that we can have with potential doctors or just anybody to help them send us some patients. That was the best thing I think I was able to get from it.
What was the live event experience like for you, by the way?
It was pretty enlightening. I mean, very different in the sense that being immersed with a bunch of holistic practitioners that are in a similar boat, some better than others, but all of them with the same mindset and that being wanting to succeed and spread their love and passion for the medicine that they each practice. It was very nice, very rewarding.
How was it compared to other events that you've been to before?
I haven't been to many events that have that purpose, so there's not much to compare to. I am going to be going to some in this coming year, but at that time there was nothing like it.
Well, so much has changed, hasn't it? And so you have many practitioners working for you. Yeah. Would you like to speak a little bit about that? How many practitioners do you have working for you, and what's your vision?
It was myself and one more acupuncturist and only a group of 4 massage therapists. And then it's just grown exponentially. And now I have 7 acupuncturists and 14 massage therapists, a full front desk staff, back staff. It's grown tremendously.
What's your vision for the practice?
My goal and my vision is to expand it so that essentially I can open up one practice in each of the boroughs in New York City. So there's 5 boroughs. I'd like to open up one in Queens and Brooklyn, Staten Island. We already have one in Manhattan and the one in the Bronx. My goal is also to expand the one in Manhattan to make it as big as the one in the Bronx and just keep growing from there. The idea would be to create like a branding, almost like a franchise, if you will, because that's the goal. I want to open up down here in Florida, same concept, same idea, same model. I want to just basically replicate it because it's a very functional and effective model for providing alternative medicine to any community, just about.
That would be awesome to have other practices like that. There are acupuncturists who would love to work at a practice like that too, and you'll be able to help a lot of people through it.
Yeah.
What kind of growing pains did you experience over the years? Tell us a little bit about the progression, because it's quite a bit of a progression going from being by yourself and then to hiring your first practitioner and then to hiring multiple practitioners. Tell us a little bit about what that was like in each of those stages. What were some of the hesitations or challenges at each stage? Let's first talk about going from when it was mainly you and then hiring another practitioner. How did you feel back then about hiring someone?
The main thing I think for me was the trust issue, the ability to trust somebody that will be able to do a good enough job or as good of enough job as what I would do. And that's the biggest thing that differentiates going from solo practitioner to a multi-staffed team. And when I first started, those were some of the growing pains because I had a few ups and downs with the people that I hired. They weren't sharing the same vision, or it wasn't up to par with regards to my standards or my requirements in their ability to provide the services that we were offering. So that's the biggest thing. And that was a huge learning opportunity for me because it allowed me to streamline the services or streamline the protocols, or at the very minimum, it allowed me to set clear expectations and guidelines as to what it is that needs to happen, or what type of practitioner I need to have on my team in order for me to continue growing, in order for me to be able to continue offering the services that we were offering. So that's how it's been a learning process, because to go from solo where you're doing everything to a huge team, you have to be able to trust and train and teach and guide and mentor all those little details about a practitioner.
What would you say to a practitioner who might be feeling like they're so busy, but they're also really afraid of hiring someone because they don't want to be managing anyone? They don't want patients to be seen by someone else because only they can take care of those patients. What would you say to that?
I would say that it's a hurdle that everybody has to go through if they want to be completely independent and want to be able to earn money through a different model. Because it's one thing to be able to see all the patients and earn the money through your own services, and it's a completely different model to be able to make a living and grow your business through other people's work. It's a trust issue. I would say the first hurdle that one has to pass is hiring one person, and at the very minimum, make sure that one person is on the same shift as you, so that you can oversee every step of the way and feel comfortable knowing that person's doing the right thing for your patients and for your clients and for your business. As time progresses, then you can let that person, that practitioner, have a little bit more independence. So instead of having them be on the same shift as you, then you can take that day off and maybe open up another spot, or you can take that day off and do administrative things, or you can just not go to work that day because you can trust that practitioner to do what they're already doing. So it's a hurdle. It's a hurdle that everybody has to go through in order to create a business, because that's the difference between solo practitioner and a business.
What have you found to be one of the biggest advantages of having it to be more like a business and multiple practitioners?
The ability to see more patients in and of itself is amazing, because using my clinic as an example, when I was working full-time in New York, I was full-time to me at that time was working 3 days a week. The other 2 days I was doing administrative work. But in those 3 days, I was seeing about maybe anywhere from 50 to 60 patients. And now, even though I'm not there, the ability to see more patients on a weekly basis is with a bigger staff, it's phenomenal. We see almost 100 patients in 5 days. We're open now 6 to 7 days a week. So with a growing staff, you can see more people, you can treat more clients, more patients. The growth is literally exponential, because as long as you're providing a good service, then the word gets spread across and you can continue to grow.
100 a week is with you or without you?
That's without me.
Okay. So your acupuncturist massages, they see a varying number of patients.
Yes, correct.
How do you have things set up? Are they pretty much all employees, or do they kind of come and go, or they rent, or?
No, all my acupuncturists are employees. I would say half of my massage therapists are employees. The other half are independent contractors. It all depends on how many shifts that they have themselves. But in essence, we're almost the clinic itself. And right now, the only limitation that we have is our space. We've almost outgrown the space, where right now we have 6 private rooms occupied almost at 90% capacity every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we have an open space now that's utilized for community style acupuncture that we're looking at to possibly expand into there.
Some of your providers are part-time, huh?
Yes, some of them are part-time.
What would you say were some of the mistakes that you made earlier on with hiring, for example, and what are some lessons that you learned?
I think the biggest mistakes for when hiring somebody were not being able to clearly set the expectations, or not being able to clearly set an example. For example, now anybody that comes to work for me would have to come and shadow me at least one day in order to see how I operate, how I do the intakes, how I treat the patients, because in essence, I need them to replicate. I don't expect them to do the same exact type of treatments that I do. I don't expect them to mimic exactly the same protocols. That's completely independent. Every acupuncturist is different, and every acupuncturist has a different approach. There's no one right way of approaching things. However, there is one method or one thing that I would like them to come in. Anybody that comes in, they have to shadow me, because I want them to be able to see that from the minute a person walking in the door, they are in a safe space, and they're going to leave essentially a different way than they came in. And that's the experience that I want every patient to have. So when anybody that I hire, I let them know this is one of the things I require, that their ability to educate, the ability to treat the patient, and making sure that they know that person is the most important person in the room during that time. It's important, because that's going to assure retention. That's going to assure compliance by the patient to come in once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever it may be necessary. But that's one of the mistakes that I would say early on I was making, in that I would hire somebody, I would trust that they're good, and I would trust that they're able to get the patient to come back. And lo and behold, 2-3 weeks later, this acupuncturist is not having a good retention. Their shift is still half empty. And so that's when I started to think, okay, there's something wrong. There's something wrong that I need to fix. And that thing that needed to be fixed was essentially, they didn't shadow me. They didn't see how I treated patients. They don't see how I have the highest retention rate, or why I'm booked for 6 months in advance. And so it's about training. A lot of the acupuncturists, or a lot of people that come on board, if they're new or even if they're seasoned, I still want them to have that same experience, so that they can see from start to end how things should be done, so that they can ensure success.
I love that you bring that up. It's so important, especially when you have a practice where you have certain level of standards that you'd like for your patients to experience, the whole patient experience, and then being able to have your providers also do that so that you can feel good that your patients are taken care of without having to worry about that. From what I've seen, a lot of practitioners make the mistake of what you said, assume their competency level of how they interact with the patients and how the experience is for the patient. They might be great clinicians, but how is the experience they make for the patients? Is it on par with your high standards and how you would like the whole experience to be like? So I think it's great that you do that now. And it's so smart. We talk about this in our 4 weeks to new hire system. Looking at how can you put things in place even during the interview process, because most practitioners are just waiting and then maybe we'll wait till onboarding time to train them on this and then maybe figure out, oh wait, I don't know if this person will work out, and then having to go through the whole headache of hiring someone new or sticking with someone too long and they're not working out, trying to hope that it works. But you're actually ahead of the game with doing this. They don't even start work until they shadow you, right? And it's part of the hiring process.
Yeah, not only shadowing, but they also have to treat me, which oftentimes makes them extremely nervous. I don't know why, but treating me is what literally will set or break their hiring process, because I will literally sit in the lobby and pretend to be a patient with a real life problem, and I'll have them treat me from start to end. And then based on how they did, I mean, it's about their ability to educate me as a patient, their ability to tell me what the treatment plan is, and their bedside manner, the type of interaction they have with me, the type of musculoskeletal skills that they know, or the type of assessment that they do that will determine whether or not they continue with me or not. I'm all about giving everybody a fair chance, and I'll be able to tell if it's just nerves that got the best of them. And if that's the case, then it's a no-brainer. That's easy to break out and it's easy to train. But that starts with that. The interview process is they have to come, they have to treat me, and then they have to shadow me.
That's so great you work that into the interview process. Mm-hmm. And then it's also about what else is worked into the interview process to screen for best fit too. So it's very smart there. A common concern in growth is feeling, okay, I want to hire someone or I want to hire more practitioners now, but how do I keep them busy enough? And then be able to still cover your expenses and all that. So how did you navigate through those kinds of challenges in the practice, or what did you do, or what did you find work?
Well, that's just about business practices. That's about knowing that a new practitioner is never going to be full-time busy from the very, very beginning, unless you're running like a no-fault clinic or a workers' comp clinic where it's just a matter of volume. No acupuncturist or massage therapist even is going to be busy from the very, very beginning. So I learned that the best way to approach that is to make sure that if a provider is to come onto my team and they're going to say, or they're going to work 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, a strategy is to simply tell the provider, all right, let's fill up your Wednesdays first, and then we'll add the Monday, and then we'll add the Friday, or whatever day that they choose. But on the calendar and on the appointment scheduler, it'll look like they're available. People will know that they're open and seeing patients, but it'll look like they're fully booked. And so it creates a sense of being busy, which I think it's good in the sense because people will know, oh, that person's just started and they're already super busy, so let me schedule with them. As opposed to if their schedule is completely wide open, they have 5 slots available Monday, 12 on Wednesday, and 2 on Friday, then that means, oh, this person is relatively new. I don't know if I want to try them. Let me see who else is available. And then they'll be able to compare other providers, and they'll see, oh no, this guy's really booked. He must be really good. So let me go see him. So one strategy is to set it up so that the provider that's brand new is filled up one specific day. Another strategy that we utilize in my practice is we make sure that anybody that's brand new coming on to see us as a new patient, all the brand new patients go specifically to the new provider. So that way we can start building up their clientele and their patient list. Unless it's a direct referral to myself or to any of my other already existing acupuncturists, then any new patient has to by default go to the provider that's available, the provider that's brand new.
So that's great. When someone starts out and they can get busier sooner rather than later, they're more likely to stay.
If my providers are happy, if they're full, then they stay.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I seem to come across a lot of practitioners who are scared about doing that, mainly because they feel, well, but if I don't keep a lot of the patients still, then I'm not going to be able to make as much money. So I should just try to have them find their own patients, and I need to at least still keep my load. What would you say to that?
That sounds more like a person is too scared to hire somebody that would be an employee, and it sounds like it's a person that just wants to hire like an independent contractor that, yeah, I can bring somebody on board, but they have to get their own patients. That's fine and dandy, but it doesn't really build up the whole team atmosphere. I could have done that because I have plenty of room in my office, and I could just rent it out to other acupuncturists or to other therapists, and they could have done that, but it defeats the purpose of having camaraderie or teamwork, you know, because a new provider that would come on board, for example, and they would come on board on the same day that I'm on board, they're going to be afraid that they're not going to get busy. But it's a complete opposite. When they come on board and they see that I'm on the shift, and they see that I have 20 to 25 patients, and they don't have that many, I have them shadow me, and I introduce them to my new acupuncturist and introduce my patients. I say, look, this provider is going to be here on the days that I'm not here. If in case you need anything and I'm not available, please come see him or her. That's one of the nice things that I think we've established in my practice, and that's what I would establish in any practice that I open, that sense of teamwork. It shouldn't be so that a patient belongs to one provider and only one provider can see that patient. That's the atmosphere that needs to be understood, especially in the field of acupuncture or massage therapy. There's not necessarily one provider that will do the perfect treatment every single time for a patient. So in that sense, it's always good to have more eyes or more hands on board. As long as it's communicated to the patient directly that, listen, I'm going to be treating you today with my colleague. He has experience treating this, and that, and will be a great asset to be able to see if I missed something in your care. And so as long as that's communicated to the patient by the existing acupuncturist, by the existing provider, then it'll create a sense of teamwork. The new provider, the new acupuncturist will feel welcome and will feel like, you know what, Brian's already presented this patient to me. If that person comes, then I already know what he did, and I'll feel more comfortable about it. It's just a fear that I think it comes down to what the owner of the business wants to do. You can have independent contractors, but at the end of the day, you also have to keep in mind, if they're better than you, then they're going to have more patients than you. And
or they'll go work off
or
on their own, right? Go off on their own. Why would they keep working for you? Kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Because they'll get to keep all of the money versus just working
right.
for you, if they have to find their own patients anyway. What I'm hearing is that you created this culture where it is such a team spirit, and with your philosophy of how it's not like a provider belongs to one patient, just having a more of a team approach with it. And different acupuncturists or providers, massage therapists have different skill sets, and it could be actually a good thing for a patient to experience the different approaches or a way a practitioner be treating. It's interesting because there are different perspectives of this. I sometimes hear when acupuncturist owners are wanting to hire people, sometimes they want other acupuncturists to do their exact same approach, or else they don't want that person on the team. You actually have the philosophy of, hey, it's good to be all different and doing different kinds of things. And that's the kind of practice you're creating. So it's really about preference, right? I know one of the things you had shared with me that you were really excited about when you were doing the 6-figure speaking makeover mentorship was that you ended up getting booked in front of doctors, and then you also spoke at NYU. Tell us a little bit about that. What was that like for you?
That was super exciting, actually, to be honest. And I think that training or that mentorship that we did was very successful in terms of being able to help me create the speaker one sheet that allows you to present yourself to an entity, to a corporation, to a hospital, to whatever it may be, to get them to pique their interest in order to get you on board to be able to have a speaking engagement. I was able to get booked in different speaking engagements. I spoke at the Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Annual Congress to a plethora of doctors, telling them about how acupuncture and herbs are phenomenal, and it's the fad of the future, and how it's an amazing modality that should be looked into, and that as doctors should be referring to us for things that, for everything under the sun, and even for things that are complicated that can't be treated through Western medicine. So it was exciting because I was able to implement some of the techniques and some of the tools that were taught in the seminar. And it was exciting. I did multiple lectures and speaking engagements. And it's something that now that I have a little bit more time, I'm hoping to be able to start to do that here in Florida as well, and continue to do so. My goal at the end of the day, from that respect, is once I have these practices, all these practices up and running, my goal is to essentially continue to grow, continue to expand. I think the best way of going about that is to continue to market myself, to continue to market the industry, the modalities of acupuncture, alternative medicine, massage therapy, and to try to set myself up with speaking engagements so that I can continue to grow the education and the interest for these modalities.
That's what's so great about speaking, because you could literally, I mean, that's a big move going from New York to New York City area to Florida, and a completely different kind of an environment, and have to start all over there. You've been fortunate to be able to maintain your practice in New York City. Now you can even have practices in 2 locations, which is really awesome in New York. I mean, you already have 2 locations in New York City, but in terms of separate cities, and now 2 separate states, locations in 2 separate states. And when you have that skill set of speaking dialed in, you could literally just start up in a new city and get known as a go-to practice very quickly.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I want to set myself up as the go-to for acupuncture and massage therapy. It's funny how you said the word go-to, because that was one of the verbiage that I used for my practice in the Bronx. The Bronx office, my Bronx clinic, is right now the largest holistic center of medicine in the Bronx.
Wow.
Probably in actually all 5 boroughs, because there's no other practice that offers massage, the plethora of massage services or acupuncture services that we do. So I'm proud to say, and the idea is to continue growing that. And like they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, which is, I think, true. Now that I'm here in Florida, my goal is by January to open up 1, possibly 2 practices at the same time here in South Florida.
Those talks that you ended up doing in New York City with the providers, how did it go as far as getting referrals?
Oh, it was fantastic. I have the #1 physical medicine rehabilitation doctor at Mount Sinai that refers patients to me. He literally sent me an email saying, Brian, this patient has such and such problem. And not for nothing, these are like probably the most complicated patients or most complicated cases that an acupuncturist could ever see, to the point that despite all the training and knowledge that we've been endowed with, I still have to look up and research things that are extremely complicated. And it's great because it forces me to be on top of my game, but it helps me to know that I can be trusted by doctors such as this one that referred him to me. And that's the beauty behind it, because even though they're the best at their field, they have their limitations, and they are able to refer out. And it's an honor to be one of the people that they refer to. And likewise, anytime I see somebody and I hit a plateau and I feel it's beyond my scope, then I have to be able to be humble about it and know that I have to refer out as well. So, but yeah, to answer your question, a lot of these lectures, a lot of these speaking engagements did give me a lot of credibility. It helped me with the branding of my practices in New York, and it's helped so that all these doctors that see my logo, which is this one right here, that see the name Brian Salazar and are able to say, oh, I remember him, he spoke at the PM&R conference, or oh, that's right, that's the guy that spoke at the New York Pain Society annual event. It helps because it helps with getting them the awareness that we exist, the awareness that we are here to help out and to be complementary to the Western medicine approaches.
And how did you find the templates and scripts?
Oh, they were great. They were fantastic. I think that it's just basically fill in the blank and then send it out, which is good. Which reminds me, I have to start doing that down here now, because in order for me to grow this practice, having those tools in my belt, having all those templates, and scripts. I just have to literally find them in my computer and start using them again now that I'm here.
What was your favorite part of the mentorship and live event?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. I was then able to go back to my practice and literally almost double what I was charging at the time, and allowed me to be able to say it with conviction and without any problem.
That's awesome. So proud of you. How is this experience also different from any business trainings you've had maybe in school or in the past, to say?
Oh, night and day difference. School does not teach you any of this, not whatsoever. Just like in med school, the schools for acupuncture or massage, they treat you how to be a clinician. They teach you how to diagnose. They teach you how to, develop a treatment plan of care, plan of action, diagnose, et cetera, et cetera. But they don't teach you the bedside manner. They don't teach you how to be a successful entrepreneur, so to speak. Because even if you're a solo practitioner or a businessman, those are the tools that are left behind in a traditional school, and I think in any school for that matter. And so from the business perspective, these tools are very valuable because they're not taught in schools, period, downright, just not taught.
Now that you have a practice with multi-practitioners, have you been taking more time off or anything, or what's been happening with that?
Yes and no. I've been able to take more time off with regards to not having to see patients as much as I used to. Now I just see patients twice a month in New York. I go there literally every 2 weeks. I see my patients in the Bronx on a Tuesday. I see my patients in Manhattan on a Wednesday, or vice versa. And then on a Thursday, I do a little bit of admin work. The rest of the week, I'm pretty much free. But there's no such thing as free time for me. I'm like the type of person that can't sit still, which is why here now I've been dedicating to try to figure out what can I do, where can I open, looking at potential places, because my goal eventually is to continue working in New York. That's not going to change, but I want to be able to open up down here and see patients down here, but this time with the same concept in mind, in that I don't want to have to see patients every day of the week and be the sole provider. Now that I have the knowledge that I do, I want to be able to open up a practice, see patients, but also hire people to continue seeing patients with the model that we've created, with the model that's going to be replicated and pretty much mastered in New York, so that once that's up and running, then I can literally take some more time off to do whatever I want.
Love it. Replicating this in Florida. Would you like to share why you're not practicing in Florida at the moment?
The reason why I'm not practicing in Florida at the moment is because Florida requires 4 national board exams as opposed to 2. In New York, you're only required to take 2 board exams. At the time, back then, Florida also only required 2. That being said, in New York, I only took the necessary examinations to open up a practice, to get licensed in New York. And I knew at that time that when I moved to Florida, the same thing would apply. Well, unfortunately, laws changed, regulations got updated. Florida decided to increase the number of requirements for Florida licensing for acupuncture, and now they require all 4 NCCOM board examinations in order to get licensed here in Florida.
That's why you're in Florida and going back to New York to practice twice a month. And
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I came here last July, and I've been immersed in the program at Acupuncture Massage College in Miami. I finished that program literally a month ago, and now I'm ready to take the boards, which I'm prepping for as we speak, and going to take the exams and hopefully open up shop by January.
Exciting, very exciting. And that's so awesome to have grown the practice to this extent, and where you have that flexibility to be able to not even be there the whole time, but you still have your patients are taken care of and money still coming in too, without you having to be there. And then but you still also go back there and still stay connected with your patients you want to see. Yeah. We currently have some clients who are thinking about coming to our live event, but they're wondering if they should or not, or what would you say to someone who's thinking about it right now?
Knowing what I know now, I would say it's a no-brainer. Like I said, if I could go myself, I would go again. Unfortunately, that weekend I'm jammed up because I'm going to be taking my board exams, but I would definitely do it. It's a worthwhile investment. I think any investment for individual awareness regarding business, mentoring, I think all of that is worthwhile and money worth spent, because there's always some takeaways that will help change the way you practice, the way you think, the way you approach things from a business perspective. All that is very valuable in my opinion.
What would you say to someone who might be, because they're part of the mentorship, so they're feeling like, well, I just need to work on what I already have. What would you say to that?
Well, I did both, and each of them had their own different takeaways. I would say don't limit it. It's just a matter of being able to apply everything that you learn, or the things that are applicable to your type of practice, whether you're a solo practitioner or if you're a business person that want to grow and have a multimodality practice with multiple providers. Both of these events, both of these activities are going to be useful in that regard. So I can't say one is better than the other, because each of them had their own value, each of them had their own merits.
So if you knew then what you know now, what advice would you give?
I would say just persevere. My advice is just, you as a provider are probably already a good clinician. Continue to master that, because that's what at the end of the day is going to keep patients coming back. But develop whatever skills necessary or whatever deficiencies you may have with regards to the ability to get them to come back and their ability to grow your business as either an individual or as a multi-practitioner practice.
Well, congratulations, Brian. It's super exciting to have watched your growth. That's so amazing that you went from literally practicing yourself and then having another practitioner working for you and then adding on additional practitioners. Now you've got 6 of them in one location, and then you're planning on, and very successful in New York City area, getting lots of referrals, and when you're doing that with doctors up there before, when you're doing talks. And then now you've moved to Florida and planning on starting a new practice there, and then eventually have other practices that are similar in the model and really have that experience for patients, where they get the experience of different kinds of practitioners they could actually see, and having this very collaborative environment. So congratulations with all that you've accomplished.
Thank you so much for having me, Chen.
Yes, and if any of you listening in are wanting to are at a plateau or feeling stuck with your practice and growth, and you know that you're capable of so much more and you want to help more people and have a good lifestyle for yourself too, and financially taken care of, then feel free to go to introvertedvisionary.com. And again, it's introvertedvisionary.com. And check it out now, and look forward to their 6- and 7-figure practice makeover tips there. And then if you would like some insight into what's most frustrating in your practice right now and how to grow it more effectively and faster without having to feel like you're always struggling, then feel free to reach out. So thanks, Brian, again for being here.
Thank you. Take care.